At D23, the Walt Disney Company announced that they are finally bringing Walt Disney back to the parks. And how are they doing it? By turning him into a robot. And guess what? The Disney family is not happy. Well, there's more to that story. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is living animatronic, Mr. VashSky. I do believe that's actually a life model decoy is the appropriate term, right?
I believe it is. And you know what? I was programmed very, very well, and I'm happy that my programming is coming of use, good sir, because boy, oh boy, bringing people to life via animatronics, that's been done in the past, but well, never to this extent and never with this person.
That's very true. Let's bring this story up here. There he is, the man himself, or is that the robot that has stolen his face? Walt Disney, A Magical Life features the first audio animatronics figure of Walt. Here's how Imagineers created the attraction. We're not really going to talk about that. First of all, you already knew about this if you have been following That Park Place. Our sources, who are fantastic, were able to let us know what was going on here. In this case, it was Ethan from Theme Park Wizard, or otherwise known as the Theme Park Wizard. He's a great resource. Want to shout him out here. So this is going to be going into the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln space. And originally, we thought that they might just put him in there for part of the show and just have him pop up for a moment and talk about the history of this. It's probably a little bit more than that before we get into the controversy around it. Vash, do you want to tell people about it?
Yes, apparently it's going to be playing in rotation with Lincoln after its debut, so I believe it's going to be exclusive for a number of weeks or months, and then it'll be playing back-to-back with the Great Moments Mr. Lincoln show, which, by the way, was the only Walt Disney ride production or Disneyland ride that was actually directed by Walt himself. Very, very cool. But yes, it will actually be playing in rotation with that original show, which is very different from what we were hearing. So that is prominent right here. And it goes on to say, let's go ahead and read a little bit of this right here. New show is coming to the Main Street Opera House, Walt Disney, A Magical Life, announced Disney Experiences chairman Josh Giamaro at D23, the Ultimate Fan event presented by Visa on Saturday. Wow,
oh my goodness. My goodness.
You got the whole thing in there, Jonas. That's fantastic.
They couldn't just say the Lincoln attraction is getting updated. They had to go for Main Street Opera House, Walt Disney, A Magical Life, announced by Disney Experiences chairman Josh Giamaro at D23, the Ultimate Fan event presented by Visa. All rights reserved. My goodness. Guys, get out of your own way here.
Well, that's how that goes. It will feature the first time an animatronics figure of Walt, advancing a technology he pioneered 60 years ago with Abraham Lincoln himself at the 1964-65 New York World's Fair.
But who presented the New York World's Fair? I need to know. Anyways, continue on.
Are you talking about the Illinois Pavilion and Robert Moses? That's a whole story in itself. Creating our first Walt figure is an idea that's been whispered in the hallowed halls of Imagineering for years, decades even. And tomorrow at Horizon's Disney Experiences Showcase, we just had to wait for innovation to catch up with our dreams. And we're finally ready. Yeah, the innovation is the key word here. And maybe they were responding to some illustrious Imagineers of yore, or perhaps even maybe some sentiments surrounding the family.
Yeah. So the first thing we need to point out that Roy P. Disney was at the event. That is one of these. I might get the family tree a little off here for the Roys, the lineage of Roy here. Roy P. Disney, I believe, is the son of Roy E. Disney, which is of course the son of Roy O. Disney. Roy O. Disney being the brother of Walt Disney and the first CFO of the Walt Disney Company, and the other half. When the Disney Company is run by two competent people, it's run in a better way. Eisner and Wells comes to mind as well in that. Roy P. was at the event. He is a producer in Hollywood, and he stood up. He had his D23 mouse ears. Actually, it wasn't even mouse ears. It was the headbands like girls wear that have ears on them. I guess they're trying to push those now. Anyway, stood up and received his applause. Actually participated in the applause for the event, so they could have that family approval there. The issue comes in that not everyone in the Disney family is happy with Walt being represented in the park in this way. It's not the first time he's been represented by the company in a resurrected form. They did do a hologram at one event, and I'm going to say that one, I'm not going to say it's hit or miss. A lot of people felt like it was uncanny and strange, but it was a holographic Walt. This one being an animatronic, they have had problems with that for quite some time. Joanna Miller posted on Facebook an issue that she had here. Before we read that statement, I want to say that Joanna Miller is the daughter of Diane Disney Miller and Ron Miller. Ron Miller being the former CEO of the company, and of course Diane Disney Miller being the daughter of Walt Disney himself. This post from Joanna Miller: everyone, please stop the madness. Do not let them turn my grandpa into a robot. My mom tried to stop this years ago, and they respected her wishes. There's plenty of film so people can see him and hear him talk. He has told you everything on TV show lead-ins and specials. Everyone who stepped forward when Uncle Robert's house was going to be destroyed, and you did it. Thank you. We have that protected because of all of you. Please help protect the memory and legacy of Grandpa. I'm going to say that Joanna Miller is probably of the age that she's not she doesn't use Facebook in a surgical way. I'm going to say that this is probably not the kind of thing that you would expect to see a balanced response on. It sounds like she's very upset. Also, Joanna Miller is one of the, I think she's referring to this in this statement, the Disney grandchildren back CEO, Iger and board, and Slam activist investors. This is from February of this year. This out of Reuters. Of course, it was covered many places, including that Park Place. If we look in the fight to get Nelson Peltz on the board, the Disney grandchildren, including the grandchildren of Roy Disney and, of course, the grandchildren of Walt Disney, opposed. Roy P. Disney, here he is again, Susan Disney Lord, Abigail Disney, we often go to her for quotes against Iger, and Tim Disney signed, as well as, here it is, in a separate letter, the four grandchildren of Walt himself. That's Walt Elias Disney Miller, Tamara Diane Miller, Jennifer Miller Goff, and Joanna Sharon Miller said they support Iger and the company's board and oppose the nominations put forth by Iger. This is obviously a reversal, I think. I don't know that she's saying she wants Iger fired, but I don't think she likes this one bit. It's been announced at D23. This one they actually have permits for. This one is not Blue Sky. This is something that I think they're actually working on at this point. So when Josh Tomorrow waves his hand and says, this isn't Blue Sky, this is all in active development. No, this is an actual attraction that they're currently working on here. Vash, I think you have more on the history of why Walt should not be represented in the parks.
I do. So Lincoln has been closed this entire time. That's how we know that this is actually being worked on actively right now. Unlike the the shovel and dirt comments that they've made before, this one's definitely being worked on. And Walt Disney himself was very clear that he didn't want any representation of himself within his parks in that manner. Even the partner statue was a little bit controversial when it actually came out back in 2000 now. And you'll note who actually worked on that. Well, it was famous Disney legend Blaine Gibson, the sculptor for Imagineering for many, many years. And all of your favorite sculpts in the parks, well, he pretty much did them all. And he worked on every single president up until, I believe, Obama. I think George Bush was his last. So just an incredible man, incredible insight on all of this stuff. And here's what he had to say about a Walt Disney animatronic figure. Fascinatingly, the Jansen brothers asked Blaine in 1995 if there should ever be an animatronics figure of Walt. Gibson was adamant. There are several reasons why I would be against that, and it isn't just the sacred aspect of it. I know just how crude our medium is relative to the human figure. You can't get Walt's smile, you can't program that smile that I've got on Walt's statue and have him be able to go into that. You'd have to move from a scrawl to a smile because Walt at times would get a twisted up expression and one eyebrow would go up. He had a facial range that was completely beyond our current capability. Well, I will say this. Apparently, Imagineering feels that they have that capability today. Tom Fitzgerald, who was leading this project, noted that Disney Imagineers took great care when it came to crafting an animatronic figure that could capture Walt's essence. We've created so many animatronics figures over the years, from pirates to presidents, but to create a figure of Walt Disney is an honor and a challenge, he said. How can we create a lifelike expression of Walt Disney with the nuances that made him unique in person? That twinkle in the eye, his expressive face, those eyebrows, and the way he used his hands to punctuate his thoughts and ideas. We worked closely with the Walt Disney Archives to ensure that we had the details as accurate as possible, and we scoured through his speeches and documents to find his words that would bring him to life in a way that would feel as if we dropped into his office for a chat. Our hope is that the end result will give guests the sense of Walt Disney and his engaging and warm personality. I believe, oh yes, Blaine had this to say as well on this. Link is believable because we have no personal memories of or films of his speech and mannerisms. Walt was a man whose movements meant something, and his expressions were so lively and enthusiastic you can't get that with an animatronic figure. The statue, to me, is of Walt during one of those memories where he'd say, "Let's do it this way." So it does seem like Imagineering is taking into account what Blaine specifically said about nuance and so forth. I think Tom went on to say that this would be the most advanced animatronics figure that they've ever done. Lincoln, as you know, right next door, his facial movements were the most advanced at that time, but it was put on like a 70s animatronics body, which was very interesting. It looks like they're going for the full shebang here. We'll have to see how this is done. Apparently, they're saying that they're taking great care with this figure, but we already have our detractors, and of those being some of the family members already.
Yeah, I'll count myself as someone who doesn't have a lot of faith that they're going to do this right. There could be some next level technology that they have here in order to represent him well, but at the same time, I don't know that even if they can, I don't know that they should. There's probably a Jurassic Park quote to stick in here as well. I want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about this situation? Would you be excited if you go into this attraction, which is a Walt Disney directed attraction, and you see an update and Walt himself appears? Is that something that would bring nostalgia to you, or do you think that they're not going to do this right and it's just going to be turning him into essentially the most convenient form of Walt Disney for the company? That is a robot that will say whatever it is they feed into his algorithm there. I shudder to think of what the AI Walt that they'll eventually put into the parks will be like. That being said, like this video if you found it helpful in any way. It helps to boost us up in the algorithm as well. And of course, if you could consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.